Hello, this is a video aimed at group and district chairs in Berkshire to give you an idea about the transition from executive committees to trustee boards, which will happen throughout 2023. I'm Pete Jeffries, and as well as being Deputy County Commissioner, I'm also leading Berkshire through the exciting transformation work. I'm also a volunteer leading part of this work within Scout headquarters, and I'm more than happy to have discussions with people individually for any questions or concerns that you might have. Those of you who are able to join our trustees workshop in November 2022 will find some of this information reassuringly familiar from what we discussed on that day. Since then, we've had some more updated details, which hopefully you will still find useful and interesting. Before focusing on the trustee changes, I just wanted to share with you some of the wider context. The Volunteer Experience Transformation Programme is focusing on these three areas that you can see there. In Berkshire, we've been invited to be an early adopter for these changes, and our formal transition point is November 2023, but there are some changes happening sooner. So these three key areas, as you can see there, a warmer welcome is focusing on transforming that adult recruitment through attraction and joining, which is fundamental to making sure that we can recruit an extra 10,000 additional volunteers from diverse backgrounds. We're also committed to making sure that learning is relevant and contextualised, personalised, focused on the learner in a format that is easily accessible and avoids duplication. The positive volunteering is really relevant for this presentation today. It makes sure that our volunteers continue to love what they do with young people at the heart, and new volunteers find it easy to understand, underpinned by a new volunteering framework. Some of these changes will need digital changes, and these will happen in parallel in November. Whether that's looking at how to attract new volunteers and help them to join seamlessly, or by overhauling our current learning provision to have a smoother and more intuitive package of learning, or having a membership system that makes everyday tasks easier. These tools will sit behind a single sign-on system on scouts.org.uk, and part of our preparation for the switchover later this year is to make sure that records held in Compass are as accurate as possible. I'm not going to go into these three details, these topics in detail in this video, but I wanted to give you that context about how the transition to trustee boards fits in with things. Before getting into, again, the trustee changes, it's worth making you aware of these pictures, which you may already be familiar with. The image on the left shows the simple and quite flat structure of most new teams, with team leaders and team members. There are some exceptions to this where we're retaining so-called named roles for other reasons, including group lead volunteer, group chair, group treasurer. On the right hand side, you can see what a group will look like. Section teams at the top for squirrels, beavers, cubs and scouts. The group leadership team being led by the group lead volunteer, which is what we currently call a group scout leader, and is made up of the section team leaders, and anyone else joining them is called a leadership team member. The trustee board is the key bubble for us to look at here today. This is the team which focuses on governance, which is a more focused area than executive committees are responsible for today, and we'll start unpicking some of that detail a little bit later on. Here you can see how district and county teams will look. Each also has a leadership team and a trustee board. Districts and counties will have a support team, which will be responsible for many of the support tasks which are done by executive committees at the moment. In a group, there isn't a formal support team, so it's for the group leadership team to decide how these tasks will get done. This will look different between groups. A small group, for example, may only have a few things which need doing, whereas a larger group with property and equipment and minibuses, etc., will have more tasks to share out, and creating sub-teams to handle this might be helpful. The key remains that trustee boards focus on governance, and that the support function will focus on the support tasks. And we'll revisit this a little bit later on when we look at team descriptions. We've touched there on the first of our drivers for change, the broader work to transform our volunteer experience. It's also worth underlining the second driver, which is that charity governance and the charity governance world has changed quite a bit in recent years through various high-profile news cases. And in Scouts, we haven't kept pace necessarily with all of those changes. Various regulations and best practice need to be folded into what we do to make sure that we're keeping up to date with the sector, to make sure that we're remaining as relevant as we should be as charities, and to make sure that we're seen as a respected place to volunteer as a trustee. The first change here to recognise is the name from executive committees and executive committee members to trustee boards and trustees. While most of us know that all executive committee members have always been trustees, this is making it really clear in the naming so that there can't be any confusion. Nowhere should be thinking or talking about parents' committees, being a rep on the committee, or some people talking about being trustees and others not. The transformation work will also set up the support functions that I touched on a moment ago, which gives trustees a more focused set of responsibilities. The Charity Governance Code recommends that trustee boards should range from 5 to 12 members. We'll be making the default trustee board smaller by removing some ex officio roles. For example, at the moment, a section leader can opt in to be an ex officio place on the group executive committee. This will no longer be an option, which will hopefully mean that many group trustee boards will have fewer leaders on them than their previous execs did. Of course, if some individuals are right to be a trustee because of their skills and interests, then they can be appointed, but they just won't have that ex officio spot. We want to make sure that people who are really great cub leaders can be really great cub leaders without also having to do trustee board meetings on top of that. That final bullet point, I think, is worth reminding ourselves of. Why are we doing this? This isn't just about reshuffling the pack for a giggle. It's about setting ourselves up in a stronger position so that we can deliver on our mission to run those fantastic programs for young people. On the next slide, I'll have copied and pasted the words from that 21st of February email, just in case you haven't seen them. In terms of POR updates, we're expecting 2 this year, an April edition to update the wordings and some other smaller updates around constitutions. In July, we're expecting a good draft of what POR will look like for us in Berkshire after we transition. This will separate out the governance tasks from the support tasks and change some other areas too. Some of this will be easy to fold in mid-year, and others will take effect at the next AGM. We'll also see some more guidance about how to undertake trustee eligibility checks. This should be a simple step-by-step guide on doing them for new trustees, probably easiest to do just after each AGM. Because of the new wording and approach, there'll be guidance on running a new AGM. We're expecting some simplification in the nomination and election process at AGM, so it'll be good to see this spelt out clearly for us to follow. Here's the message that has gone 21st of February in the email from headquarters to managers. Just copied here in case you haven't already seen it. Feel free to pause and read. In the future, the focus on teams-based volunteering will look at the tasks to be done. Each team has a team description, which we'll look at shortly, and that team description spells out the tasks that are for everyone to do and those which then can be shared out, sometimes with one person doing it all, sometimes with more than one. This will be for teams to manage amongst themselves in a way that works best for them. This is just as relevant for trustee boards as for every other team. Finance, I think, is a really good example. Just because it's something that involves money, it doesn't have to be the treasurer who does it. They might want to be, they might be the best at it, and that's fine, but they don't have to be the one who does it. Other trustees can also be involved or could lead some of that work as well. It also doesn't even need to be a trustee who does many of the tasks which have traditionally been done by executive committees. For example, you might have someone who's great at handling bank transfers for invoices and expense claims and so forth. There's no requirement, either now or in the future, for them to be a trustee. The exec can already delegate this, and this will be made the default in the new world. If a trustee wants to do those support tasks as well as their governance tasks, that's still fine. In effect, they're volunteering twice for both sides. And while that doesn't make much of a difference right now, the distinction will come when we recruit replacements for ourselves, and it will make it easier to recruit those replacements. So rather than looking for one person who does everything, we can instead look for a few people who'll each do a smaller chunk, and this will be the beginning of a mindset change in some places. We touched a few times on a team description. Here's the first part of the draft team description for a trustee board. Every team you can see here has got a purpose, what they're about and what they should be doing, and also who's in the team as well. In the next few slides, I'll look through the tasks for the whole team and then the allocated tasks, plus one extra section for trustee boards. Here you'll see the first page of tasks for the whole team for trustee boards. The tasks are organised under headings to help trustees to organise their workload together. You'll also see that some of the tasks have got links off to other information to make sure that you're up to date with the rules, the latest rules and guidance. This is the second sheet of tasks for the whole team. As we saw earlier with the team table, it's up to the team, the trustee board here, to decide who does what for each of the tasks. And this should actually change over time as people leave the team and join the team. The final one here just touches on the allocated tasks that you can see for the chair and the treasurer. It's worth mentioning here that there won't be a secretary role going forward in the future. The charity regulators stopped expecting this some time ago, and we know that many Scout groups already operate without one. Of course, there'll still be a requirement to do some administration, for example, minuting meetings and sorting out paperwork for the AGM. Some trustee boards might choose one of their trustees to do the administration. Others might take it in turns or divide up the tasks, and other trustee boards might have a non-trustee to support them with administration, and all of those are fine. I mentioned the final chunk that will be on a trustee board team description, which has some extra information in the same way that we've just seen, linking off elsewhere for guidance from charity regulators and elsewhere as well. And so we've come back full circle to those three key areas, and you can see how each of these are relevant, and particularly that final one there to trustee boards. Personally, I think there's loads of brilliant and frankly overdue stuff, changes that will make volunteering with Scouts better. Although the video here is aimed at chairs, feel free to pass it on to others in your team. More information will be coming out from us and from Scout headquarters over coming months to different people depending on their roles, so don't worry if this all feels quite new to you either. I think it's worth probably pausing and reflecting that some of this will bring with it challenges. Some of us will be more up for it than others. Some people will be filled with enthusiasm, while others will be filled with questions, and both of which are fine. There's loads more information that we already know that will happen than I could fit in here. Feel free to get in touch and we can have a chat on anything that you're wanting to know. I appreciate your patience in making it to the end of this video, and thanks for everything that you'll do with us over the coming months.